Welcome to the live call.
We
Here
are
is E40.
Blast it.
blast it. E40.
Nice.
Keep
If
Sophia
anyone's
on.
listening and knows who E40 is, props to you.
It's too early. We gotta wait.
Drop a 1 in the chat if you know who E40 is.
Yeah.
We
Oh,
don't have
one
it.
view.
You're not allowed.
Cody knows now.
Yeah.
I
He
know
learned 2
what
hours
happened was
ago.
well, no, I was doing my ring muscle ups, 4 strict ring muscle ups plus 1 dip. See Cody, he knows. Pull that comment up, Sophia. We'll put you in the background so you can focus.
1 in the chat for E40.
Oh, yeah. E40. No, so I was doing it and I told Cody, I was like, oh man, because it's every 45 seconds. And I was like, oh, that'd be funny if it was like E40, like every 45 seconds. And so I was thinking this in my brain and I went over to share it with Cody because I thought it was super clever. And I was like already laughing to myself. And he was like, I don't get it. E40. Who's that? Like, what's that? I was like, he's a rapper. You don't know who E40 is? And he was like, no.
No. Get out of here. Get out.
So then I proceeded to put on the E40. This is E40 on Spotify. And there were some straight bangers coming on.
Yeah,
So now I
that's
think it
great.
might be my workout station. And then we got on here before we started the live and we played it for Sophia because I felt like it's like in her wheelhouse of music because she also didn't know who E40 is. And she pretended like she didn't like it, but I guarantee you she's going to go through. Because if you do go through and you look at like a lot of the E40 songs, you start listening to them, there's some good ones that could really hype you up for lots of different things, lots of different occasions.
Also, East Bay rap
Yeah.
can be really bad. Just so we're clear. E40 is, pretty infamous, but
You don't like gin? You don't like gin?
Gin,
Yeah. East Bay rapper.
Shoreline Mafia,
Mhm.
yeah, all those
Yeah.
guys.
The whole hyphy movement was a thing. It was lit. That was the time, the best
Mac
time.
Us
Dre.
Bay Area kids. I love it.
Mac Dre. You know?
Mac Dre was where it's at, dude.
Yeah,
All
everyone's
about
like,
that smirk.
I'm trying to see Sophia's face on the back end, like if she even knows who that person is.
She-
Sophia,
she's
know-
writing, she's writing it
do you
down
know
right
who
now.
Mac Dre is?
No.
Oh, geez.
Do you
It
know what
starts with
Smurf
notes.
is referring to?
Yeah.
What? Smurf?
Yeah,
Nope.
No.
I mean the blue people.
Blue
And
Dolphin.
Disney.
You're going in the back.
Oh, all right. See you later.
Start taking notes and then
the
do
blue
a little
people.
research.
Look
You
at
won't regret it.
listen, I feel like if she does enough work on it, she's gonna
We
be
still
like,
love you,
E40 is my
Sophia.
jam. She's gonna be so hyped, dude.
That's
Me-
okay. She'd probably say something about the current music, and I'd have no idea what she's talking about.
All right, we got people watching. If you know who E40 is, put a 1 in the chat.
What about the Romper Room Gang?
Yeah,
You know what that is?
play it. Send it.
No. That's the gang that Mac Dre was a part of,
Hmm,
I think. Like his actual like gang side. Because
Dude,
they were
fun
actually
story.
gangsters.
Heather knows where this is. Remember, I forget what the actual little like venue or like club it was on Lawrence Expressway in Saratoga. Do you remember that? It's still probably there.
It's the
Yeah, try to think of that.
mm,
Dude, I saw E40 at that
God, what was it called?
club when I was in college. It was sick,
I
dude.
can't remember what it's called, but yes, I know. I feel like I went there when I was like 16, and I tried to, sneak in there. It was like an 18 and older club.
Yeah, it's probably still there. But yeah, that was fun time. So if like people look up E40, just imagine me and a bunch of my friends who are similar to me going to this like small club that's what do you think? Like 3,000 square feet? Like that's basically the size of a
God, what
CrossFit
was that
gym.
place called?
Yeah, see, she knows it. It's pretty popular. We don't even know the name. Listening to
I can't
E40,
think of it.
like a bunch of rappers. It was lit.
Well, now E40 just sits in the front row at like the Niner games and the San Francisco Giants
Oh,
games
does he?
and the Warriors games. Yeah, he's all about it.
That's cool. All right, no one else knows who E40 is. We got people watching. No one put a 1 in the chat if they know who it is. Harley's trying to look something up for us.
I was just fact checking the Romper Room Gang and see
Got
if
it.
I was correct.
The
They
Edge.
robbed banks.
Oh, the Edge. They did.
They robbed banks in
Oh,
Vallejo
jeez.
in the 90s. It's wild.
Wow.
And Mac
Oh,
Dre
yeah.
was associated with them. Yes.
Wow.
The Edge, wasn't that the name of the club?
Yes, you're
Right?
correct. Such a rough area.
Yeah.
I bet you Harley's been there and he didn't even know it.
What?
The little club, the Edge off of Lawrence Expressway in like Saratoga.
Yeah.
No
by
idea.
the hospital.
The only concerts I ever went to in that area were at the amphitheater,
Yeah,
Mountain View.
Yep.
Was that Shoreline?
Shoreline. Yeah, sick.
Yep. I saw some good shows there.
I would play E40 on here, but I feel like we get like a copyright strike.
Probably.
I don't
The
want
most. What's the most violent concert you've ever been to? Like the most like outbursts of like fights and stuff.
Probably the Avenged Sevenfold Hollywood Undead concert.
That makes sense.
Fillmore.
The Hollywood Undead makes more sense from like they like acting up and being dumb. I don't think the Avenged Sevenfold aligns.
Guilty.
Like, oh, what?
Acting up and
No.
remember, I used to do combat sports, so it's like
Yeah,
fun. It's like
That
a
was fun.
fun game to fight.
Random people.
Yeah.
Sick. That's so fun. I got hauled to a Jason Aldean concert, not because I like him, but because the people at NC Fit were like, let's do a team building. Like, we're going to go out to a concert
He's
as
so
a crew.
tall. You don't like him. Look at I saw her face. Mouth was wide open.
I went to him this summer. He's so
Who?
good. Jason Aldean.
Oh no, trash. But all these like hillbillies in flannel shirts were like rolling down the hill at Shoreline Amphitheater, like beating the hell out of each other. So that was funny.
Oh,
There was
dude,
like 4 fights that night.
love from Carlos.
Carlos, dude, quick kill. So I met him
How do you
in
not like
person.
this one? Oh baby,
I mean,
pull that up. Let
fine.
the comments stay there. Just let him stew in it. I don't even know. Name a Jason Aldean song. I'm sure I know who it is. I'm not really like a country person.
something
anyways.
about his Tractor. I think Tractor Sexy. I think it's that Jason.
No.
Aldean, right?
No, stop.
I mean, the other day, Cody was like, "Oh, Todd's sad boy music." I was like, "Oh, come on, dude," because I listen to a lot of like rock, like emo style.
That's where
music.
it's at.
Yeah, but he calls it
Mm.
sad boy music. So I don't think it is. I don't see how like if you listen to E40 or Hollywood Undead or like Atreyu or like Kill Switch Engaged, I don't see how that's like sad boy. I know how there's some that are sad boy, but it's not like I'm out here listening to like Simple Plan or something. Like, come on. You know what Simple Plan is, Sophia? No, I didn't think so. I like being in control.
No.
Yeah,
We
or
know
like
that.
My,
We already know
My
that.
Chemical Romance. What actually has some pretty good songs, but not everything. Emo pop. No, you
Oh,
called
yeah.
it boy music. At least you
Emo
weren't,
pop.
dude.
I enjoy country, Regina, just so we're clear. I just like Tyler Childers, some Zach Bryan, and like Turnpike Troubadours, not Jason Aldean.
You're more like country. You're not like,
Like-
mainstream.
Yeah.
Like more like folky, like
But here's the
country
other
Yeah.
thing,
storytelling.
Regina, that you have to remember is Harley rode bulls. So
Yeah,
like,
Big Green Tractor. I was so right.
Nuh-uh.
Something about a tractor.
he was a bull rider.
Not she doesn't think my tractor is sexy, but the tractor is green.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the tractor is green.
I mean,
This is good. I like where this all went. Oh man, last night
um,
we'll get to training distribution in a second. Last night, Marissa, we watch obviously videos of people training and their training review videos. And the whole reason why all of this even came up was because about the E40 and talking to Cody was I was doing some program design and I could hear this music coming off of Marissa's computer, and I knew she was like watching somebody's training video. I was like, what are you listening to? Because it was going for a while, and then I kind of figured because there's a lot of qualifiers going on, it was like reviewing a qualifier workout. I was like, who is that? Because the music was like basically like Mulan, like the soundtrack to Mulan, or like Pirates of the Caribbean. It was like dun 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 dun. It was like some like epic hero music, and I was like, who is listening to this? And she turns the computer, and it's Cody doing burpees.
you know who used to listen to that type of stuff? So Chase and Jeff would put on like adventure soundtrack from
Yeah,
like,
that's probably-
movies in
okay.
the background. Like
Well,
it's like a whole playlist.
To be fair to Cody,
What is your favorite? Let's talk about it. Your
it was like science fiction movie soundtrack.
no, but what's the
Hold on,
movie
hold on.
soundtrack that you like that you say have bangers in it, Todd?
The Greatest Showman,
Yeah,
or
It's
the Greatest
true.
Showman. It has bangers.
he's like put that playlist
in the
and he's like, "This is
chat.
so good."
Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me this one like doesn't have bangers. Okay, don't hate.
I'm just saying.
How are you
Sometimes there
gonna
could be
hate
some
on Hugh
random music
Jackman
in
and
there.
Zac Efron? Please do not. Please do not. But yes, Cody. I was gonna tell them pull up Cody's comment again.
The Blade soundtrack.
We gotta try that one. Yeah, it was a Rocky Balboa training montage soundtrack, is what he told me in the gym. And I was like, he's like, it was Rocky, and I was like, what? Like I was trying to figure out. He's like, you don't know what Rocky is? I was like, no, I know what the movie. So you were listening to a movie soundtrack, is what he explained. It's like the Apollo Creed like soundtrack,
yeah.
which I don't know. I just laughed because I was like, it sounded like because the Mulan thing. Mulan does have some bangers in it, so I shouldn't really hate. It's a good movie. She's gonna save us all and bring honor to our family. Don't forget. Right? Mulan is a good movie. No, but I was like, yeah, it's like if you went to like a really nice like China buffet and they're playing like the like traditional music, but like really up tempo with like maybe some violins and like some hardcore drops. Like that's like what he was listening to.
Did you say China buffet?
Yeah, or like a really nice Chinese restaurant.
Nice.
I did used to listen to Moana.
Oh,
It's really good for wall balls. You should try it out. Like if you're doing like big sets of wall balls. Yeah.
Oh,
The ocean is calling me. It's good. Like, cause you just like vibe it, you know, and you're like, it's calling me, and I like how far
wait,
I'll
so
go.
we started with E40 and now
Yeah.
we're talking about Moana bangers.
So
Hey, it just shows my diversity and breadth and depth in music and appreciation.
all I'm picturing with the Blade soundtrack is Sandstorm.
Oh
Like-
yeah.
oh yeah.
Like there's always been like all the vampires are in nightclubs, you know. So like that's all I'm imagining.
Oh man. All right. Before we get to training distribution, I will about the Blade stuff. I'm really sad that Marvel won't cast, and like Wesley Snipes, I think owns some of the properties of Blade, and won't allow them to like do Blade again.
Really?
That's why in the Wolverine Deadpool movie where he says there's only one blade. You know when Wesley Snipes says that? That's like the joke to like how they're not gonna have a Blade movie.
Well, that
Yeah.
sucks.
It's pretty controversial in the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe. Anyways, that's because you can't replace Wesley Snipes. This is true. Pull that comment up. This is true. Hey, he didn't know who E40 is, but he knows who Wesley Snipes is.
I think the Blade movies were perfect the first time through. We don't need to run them back.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Sophia, bring up our boy, Wad Science. So on to more serious stuff. We're going to talk about training distributions. This came up and I liked it. So I sent it to the coaches and I was like, all right, let's just talk about this. Training distributions. They do a nice little breakdown about it. There's a little paper that they have, and then still waiting on the YouTube video. Typically he does a pretty long form YouTube video that it's cool to watch. The punchline of it. So like there's polarized training, threshold training, and then like what would be zone 2 or like pyramid style training, or like fartlek, if you're familiar with that. And ultimately what they have come to conclude, like we all know intuitively, is newbie gains are the thing. And you could do any of these training methods and increase your fitness. But if you scroll over to, I think, the third slide, Sophia, next one. Next one. Nope, next one. It's the punchline. So which is the best model? Keep going.
Yeah.
Where's the athlete? Where it just tells you that. So they,
Bottom. Oh.
there you go. And the take home about the athletes. So they call them athletes, but I would say like trained individuals, that could be replacement for anyone who is trained long enough that there's no more novelty in learning something new. Like you have athletes that come into the CrossFit gym all the time or start a new sport. And at first they're terrible. And then once they get the neurological gains of, hey, I learned how to do toes to bar and I can do a few, then they got to build more. Or I don't run at all. And I've been running 3 times a week and I'm just running randomly, but I'm getting better. I feel better. Their aerobic like uptake of oxygen increases. They're feeling on running. They can run longer. They don't have to walk as much. once you get rid of all those newbie gains and then you become what they're saying athlete, you become an athlete, which I think is kind of funny that they worded it that way. But
Well, I find it interesting because even in the first one, it goes less experienced athletes, and then it's just athletes. If you look back to previous slides, they referred to them as less experienced and then competitive athletes. So I think in this slide, they just left out the word competitive.
Okay. And I would, well, I can add something to this too that was really interesting with a conversation of somebody in the gym today who's a doctor. We're having, I don't know, doesn't matter, nurse practitioner or doctor. I'm not entirely sure which one of, there's a difference there. But anyways, so once you get past those newbie gains, you have to specify your training to increase getting more gains. And why I bring this up, and we'll talk about it and just break it down and go deeper into it, is because I have a huge issue with like we know the first layer is consistency of a training program. Like the one that you can be consistent to is the one that you're going to do and you're going to get benefits from, obviously. From consistency, there's like enjoyment, I would argue. It's like number 2. You got to be consistent and you got to like it. Once you've done those two, I do think a lot of people get stuck in that spot. Like they're like, well, I'm consistent and I enjoy it. So it's like, whatever, it's fine. Doesn't matter what I do because I'm consistent and I enjoy it and I'm progressing. The caveat there is like, you could run for like 5 years and run randomly and continue to get better at running. Like they've already, especially like if you are technically a bad runner and then you start running sprints, because they found the best way to improve someone's running mechanics is make them run fast and hard. That's why the incline machines, sprinting machines, those places get really popular, is because people, they put them on the machine, they put the belt on them and they let them run and sprint. And then because of what they found through sprinting and increase in technique, they get better. So there's a reward there for the participant. So then they get better at their technique. And then once that wears off, then where do you go? Right. So like the same thing happens with these training intervals. If you're doing zone 2, you're going to build that base up and you're going to reap those rewards as a new beginner if you've never done zone 2. If you do really high intensity training, it ends at a certain point. You're going to reap those benefits in the beginning, and then it's going to stall out. You're going to plateau. Your curve goes like this, and then it just stops and goes across. What is interesting on another layer that I talked about, the member, we were talking about muscular gain percentage between men and women and that research, and we were having a conversation about it. Interestingly, she sent me a research study about high intensity and how type 2 diabetics basically should be doing high intensity, because we're talking about HbA1c and glycogen. And she was like, oh yeah, like it's crazy. The research study she sent me, like the punchline of it is, hey, the best thing for people to do who are trying to do weight management or improve their metabolic health is to do high intensity. And I was like, oh, that's really strange that like that's not talked about more. I know it's talked about like within our communities and everything else, and obviously CrossFit, and you've seen that, and Greg talks about it, and things like WOD Science talk about it. But it's another layer to like, okay, once, let's say you get that person who's trying to change their metabolic state and their health and their fitness, they do a bunch of intensity, they lose the weight, they're able to handle glycogen better in their system, their HbA1c comes down, their blood sugar levels normalize. Then what, right? Because they're going to plateau as well. But it is cool to know that like, hey, that is the recommendation out of these training distributions. If you go back to let's go second slide, I think has it. Second to there you go. So like these training distributions of zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, and then obviously zone 4, and then go one more to the front, Sophia. Yeah, there. So then the nice little graph of showing you how you would distribute the training across the weeks. And like that one, let's go here, 80-20. Some more like 80-20, getting rid of the middle, a lot of middle, the orange when it goes to the little pyramid peak one. That's like a lot of CrossFit. Just so I'm just trying to, as you guys watch this, I'm trying to explain to you what those graphs mean.
Yeah. So essentially my interpretation of the graph is that whenever there's the pyramid that's there, you're spending majority of your time at threshold. So in those middle levels of intensity, zones 3 to high 3 to low 5. And then the one that is all that one there, which is majority of your time in low efforts. That'd be like an endurance program that's training for a marathon, building volume, base building, etc. And then the one where the middle is the lowest and the ends are higher, that one there, that would be the 80-20 that Todd was talking about, where 80% of your time is spent at lower intensities, but you're still adding in some sprinting and that polarized effect of hitting the ends of the spectrum of intensity.
Cool. Let's go through like a general idea of a training program. So like a template or skeleton. I don't think we've ever gone over that on the podcast ever. What do you guys use when you tell somebody? I try to stay away from template because like templated programming. But like
Outline.
outline. What?
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you guys use? Template, outline, skeleton,
I use outline and skeleton. Yeah. The framework.
framework.
Yeah.
Okay.
I use outline.
Words like that.
Cool. What that is for you guys listening is we're talking about training distribution. So the skeleton, template, outline, whatever a coach calls it. Now a template can be confused before we go on. A template can be confused with templated training, meaning like Mayhem. It's a group blog program that's one program for everybody. Okay. That would be, some people use the word template and they mean that type. I sometimes use the word template. I don't mean that. You're not on a group blog program that everybody does. There's no change, nothing to it. That is not what I mean when I say that. So if I say template or skeleton, you now know what I mean. And these guys say outline. So what that is in CoachRx, what we use, or if you do spreadsheets for an athlete, you're going to write down Monday and you're going to then say, okay, today they're going to do, let's just say they're endurance athlete who's prepping for a half marathon. Monday is going to be an easy day, below 70% heart rate or effort. And Tuesday is going to be another easy day. And maybe they're doing some structural strength or imbalancing work. And so you'll put at the top, easy zone 2, single leg structural strength. Then on Wednesday, you might decide, okay, today we're going to go hard. And so we're going to do some intervals or we're going to do some blocks. And it's going to be high zone 4, low zone 5. And you'd say that at the top. And then Thursday, rest day, if that's like how they do it. And then Friday, another zone 2 easy. And maybe you're doing like zone 2 easy, but you're doing a little bit of speed play, but it's not high intensity. It's below zone 3, like low zone 3, high zone 2, maybe working on cadence. Maybe you do some sprints in there that don't actually spike the heart rate for a long duration, like a 20-second sprint. And then you go on for 5 minutes and you run slow. And you can integrate those in for a longer run. And then the last day, you're going to do another easy zone because you got to have a lot of days that are easy. And then maybe you're like, okay, we also want on the day that they're doing the 30-second intervals on Friday and the long continuous with 30-second intervals, they're going to come back in and I want them to work on the similar thing. And we're going to go AMRAP 30 seconds burpees, 2-minute easy walking, just to work on some explosive hip movement, global contraction, and then you give them some bodybuilding. That would be like an outline structure of somebody doing 80-20 training for like a half marathon. Does anyone want to give an example of?
Well, I was also
another
going to
one?
say, like, thinking about that, like that would be something that you could write that for an endurance athlete, or you would, but also even just for like a more competitive athlete, right? Because it's like those types of athletes are highly conditioned to their sport. They can do all the movements and the things. And so it's like, if you're constantly just like, and I think this is sometimes maybe what blog programming does, right? It's just always this like, go hard, go hard, go hard, or even like go like in that middle
You're
zone,
doing
like,
the
and they're
pyramidal training.
what?
How would you say that? Pyramidal?
I guess. Yeah.
How
But
do you say it, Harley? Or you're silenced.
like, how do you pronounce it?
Yeah.
So no, the one where you're spending majority of your time in the middle is actually the threshold model. The pyramidal is
but what-
majority
He's
easy.
saying, how do you say
How do you
that?
say that word?
Pyramidal.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's how I said it. All right, I was just
Yeah.
I just wanted
I'm-
a confirmation.
But I think that for like those like higher trained athletes, and like I think maybe what the study is getting at is like they're going hard so much that they're not actually able to like recover. They're not able to like, and they're like in that middle zone, so they're not hitting like aerobic power necessarily, like because they're just like in that like kind of gray
Yeah,
area zone,
dampens
right?
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think what they're saying with these like higher trained athletes is like giving them more of this 80-20 training so that they can do more volume, do more work without just like wrecking their body all the time. And I think that that's something that we try to talk to a lot of our higher level athletes a lot about, because they can't go hard all the time. And I think that they think when they get pieces in their programming, like every single piece, they have to like give that to their programming. So I think it also just applies to these higher level athletes and more conditioned athletes.
It definitely can. It depends on what their sticking point is, right? Because like for most athletes who, I wouldn't even say high level, I would just say trained athletes who have done let's CrossFit class for a while and a base of CrossFit, and they're coming in and maybe they're doing 2159s, they're doing AMRAP, couplets, triplets, and chippers, and they do that for a year. Eventually they're going to get so burnt out because they're doing the pyramid style training where you're in threshold, like Harley's. I'm just going to say threshold.
I think you have those two mixed up, Todd. I think pyramidal based on this graph right there is easier. It's majority of your time spent easy and not enough time spent fast. And then the one in the middle is just the threshold. So this one coming up is threshold.
Yeah, that one. Okay.
That
yeah,
one.
that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Correct.
The threshold one, the one that looks like a pyramid, even though they're not called.
I understand the confusion for sure.
Yeah.
Either way, you do need some time there though. Like right now for a lot of athletes who are going to do the open or a qualifier, or you're prepping for High Rocks and you're getting close, like you do need that hard training because you got to practice it. You got to practice the skill of competing. You got to practice that high intensity.
But that's also why you're giving it 1 day a week, right?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like now maybe the time, but to what you were saying is eventually people got to come out of that, because you can't stay. I don't think you can stay there very long unless someone has an argument, which would be great to hear. But I think we all agree on that.
Can't stand what too long?
High intensity 2159s,
right?
Okay.
2 to 3 days a week.
Yeah,
is like the most in the last 6 weeks leading in the open. And then outside of that, like even getting up to like that 8-week mark, like you're going to be pretty tired.
Yeah. But we call that kind of like our like ramping up, right? Like our ramping up
peak,
into a season or into a qualifier or whatever competition. But yeah, it's not going to be something you're going to sustain all year long in training.
Yeah. I guess I was just pointing out that none of these are bad and there's no optimal one. It's figuring out where they need to go and when they need to be used. And
so
I think
you gave an outline, Todd, of someone training for a half marathon, and then you were discussing it from an 80-20 perspective. Did you want to break down what athletes might fall into these different styles?
Sure. Yeah. So let's just keep the runner, because CrossFitters and endurance racers, athletes of any type, I think are very similar and almost more synonymous than people think. If you are strong enough in the sport, so you're proficient in snatch, clean and jerk, your back squats are high enough, I think you need to start training more like an endurance athlete than the traditional CrossFit athlete. And you're seeing that way more because you're going to get a bigger result out of it. So let's just use the runner as an example. If you have a runner who doesn't have a base, they're really new to running, the best thing to do is do polarized training where they're doing 80% very easy, working on just getting to run and getting the mileage and getting the volume, and then having some hard days because they need to learn how to run fast. If you have somebody who's done slow running, and the avatar person, I hate to do this, but it's the Christina McCragans, who are 45 years old, who have like ran their whole life. And when they run, they go out with their next door neighbor and they're just chit chatting away and they're doing great. They're holding a good cadence. They're good runners, maybe mechanically not so good, maybe so, depending on, but they're able just to go for like 2 hours and they're just holding a conversation, chit chatting away. Then they come to you and say, well, I've ran a couple marathons, half marathons, and it's taken me like 2 hours and 20 minutes to do a half marathon. And I want to get a little bit faster. So that person actually would skew it. And almost you could flip it to the point where you're doing so much intensity, so much speed work and power work that you're not ever really hitting that zone 2 and flipping it on its head a little bit for that person. And almost like in the middle there of their zone 4, like high, mid zone 4, zone 5, more of that training, more often to get them to run faster and break through. So if they're pacing, let's say they're running a 9-10 mile repeat, the goal there would be then push them into like a 7-minute mile effort, shorter durations, long rest periods to get their body accustomed and used to that running, and then build that over time. And hopefully then try to play it back into some middle ground of training. So you could see what their zone 2 pace now is and what their heart rate is now that you've given them some speed and some intensity.
Yeah, I think something that I've learned from this cycling endeavor and spending time on the trainer indoors is, and I've done this a bit in running, but not nearly as much, is I think that when we talk about running speed and developing time at that zone 4, like threshold, still a higher effort of pace and a higher stimulus on the system, is we often do intervals that have just completely passive rest between them.
Mhm.
Rather than coming back down to that zone 2. And I think that's probably more true in the CrossFit sense than a true marathon runner, right? Like we
Yeah.
all have discussed fartlek and we've discussed varying intensities throughout a continuous run. But I think that's something that endurance athletes do a lot more of that CrossFitters don't. We often see like on main site, like 5x800, rest is needed and it's like completely maximal and then it's complete passive rest. But like, I think to bridge the gap from that speed work and that development of building the tolerance and ability to run fast and bridging it to, the ability to hold an effort for a half marathon, hypothetically, having that continuous movement for, an hour to 90 minutes, but with layered in or sprinkled in high intensity bouts is
Mhm.
where you're going to get that bridge between the two.
Yeah.
Definitely.
But
And yeah, I think that's why I said like training CrossFitters, like endurance racers, is exactly what you're saying. And that's why often now I write, hey, during the rest, easy bike or easy
sure.
row or easy ski. And I don't necessarily have anyone rest so much anymore, like just straight rest, unless we're doing like bodybuilding or something else. But if it's barbell cycling with a machine, or I love to do like not EMOM, but like every 5-minute work. Heather does a lot of this now where it's like she's got to go hard in this one piece and then she's easy walking for the remainder of the time and vice versa, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's a good value add of understanding why you're continually moving. It's because you're trying to be more aerobic and add more volume in an easy way that doesn't compound on the actual work you're doing, like Harley's saying.
Yeah.
And you have to emphasize easy. You have to treat easy as easy. Like,
Yeah.
don't be stubborn and be like, no, I'm going easily, but you're like still barely able to speak. Like, you have to be recovering. Go ahead.
And the endurance people, like you're saying, they've been doing it for so long that I don't care. Like we're pulling up this study and there's a bunch of studies and Watson does a great job with meta-analysis and everything like that. But like when you watch people do it, the studies do back up what you're seeing in real time with real athletes, with real cyclists and runners. So like to be like, well, this, that, the other, or you're going to try to argue the fringe. It's like, no, the majority of people, it's proven to work like this. So I continue to do it that way and know like that's why I'm doing it. Cause a lot of people ask like, well, why am I biking easy in my rest, or whatever question they have. And like, that's one of the reasons why. It's because you're just trying to continually exercise to make things more cyclical and aerobic. And it's being pulled from endurance racing.
Yeah. Well, I think even in the Christina example that you gave, it's like, she has so much experience in that lower aerobic zone and she has no experience, or I mean, now she has a lot more, but when she came to us, it was like she had no experience in that like high output, high explosive, high power zones. And so that's, I mean, logically, like that's what she needs, right? She doesn't ever train in that zone. And as CrossFitters,
Well,
it's like,
logic to you
okay.
because
Okay.
you're a coach. Well, that's a good
Right.
distinction. So
But-
those people who watch like later on and are watching now, like it is logical to most of us coaches because we've done it so often. So like, hopefully it's shining light on it. It might not be obvious to you why
Yeah.
you're not getting better. It's obvious to us because we do it every day and that's our job, but it may not be obvious to you, like what you need to do or why you need to do it.
Well, and just from like the simplicity of like well-rounded training, right? Like you just need to do low training. You need to do high training. You need to do moderate training. And if you're an athlete that just like CrossFitters who maybe only do high intensity training all the time, to this same point, it's like, yes, you need to be doing this zone 2, zone a longer aerobic type stuff, right? Because you don't ever work in those zones to make yourself more of this like well-rounded athlete. So I think like looking at yourself as what does your training look like? What do you typically do? And then it's like, okay, well, you're probably deficient in the other thing.
Yeah. The hard part with it all is that you get a training effect from all of these things. And like even they have it on the slide where it says they saw a slightly greater improvement in VO2 for competitive athletes in peak after polarized training, while recreational athletes experienced slightly greater benefits from a pyramid style training. But it was almost like non-significant though. Like in the training effect degree of change. So like that's where people I think get confused because it's hard because like people will be like, well, I don't really care that I didn't get 5% better. But then some people do. Like the elite athlete is trying to get, like Luca and I were joking the other day because he PR'd his snatch in the Senate Saturday workout in a repeat workout. And it was I think it was like a 2.5% PR, like to a snatch. And he was like, oh, 1% better today as he was leaving. And I was like, well, actually, you got 2.5% better because it was 2.5% PR on your snatch. And then he did snatch that barbell like 6 times. So then he multiplied it by 6. And he was like, well, yeah, you're right. It's like 15% better because I PR'd by 2.5% and then I did 6 more times. And you guys are laughing about that. And it's like, it's how he's rewarding himself. But I do think there's some truth to that a little bit. Like you're just trying to get these small margins of gains, even the recreational athlete, but they throw the baby out with the bathwater because they're like, well, if I do anything, I'm consistent and I'm here every day in class or I'm doing my program design, I'm going to get better. Like, doing something is better than nothing, but it's like, well, yeah, but like if you're here doing it already, wouldn't you want to try like Luca, get the 2.5% times his 6 reps? Gains.
Well, I think they do want that, but to do that is
no, they
still,
don't. It's still
hard.
No, they don't.
No.
Why would they? No.
Of course,
no,
everybody would want to put
no.
2% on their snatch. I would argue that everybody would want to put 2% on their snatch, but still showing up every day and putting in that hard work is hard. It's hard. And
that's what I mean.
That's
we go 80%.
No,
Can
that's
we talk about the people that are living in threshold?
I want to solve this in the chat.
I think it builds off of what you guys are talking about.
Okay, hold on. I want to solve the argument about people wanting to get better. I think, yes, everybody wants to. If you're like, hey, do you want to buy a BMW? Most people would say yes. Okay, great. Do you want to buy a BMW? But you got to do all this hard work and make all this money. Not everyone's going to say yes now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
right.
Exactly
That's what I'm saying. Not everyone wants to get better.
I have a deeper layer to this.
It makes me mad. You hit a button. I'm triggered now.
No, well, if they could take the magic pill and then hit the PR and make it easy, I know, but that's why.
Not everyone wants to get better.
Right.
You think you want to get better.
They do in here, but they don't want to do the work to get it.
Right. So they don't actually want to get better. Right. That's why I'm mad.
Okay.
All right. You want to hear my conclusion to your argument?
You're right.
That's fine. I'm triggered because so many people say I want to get better, and then you tell them what to do.
You're not.
And they don't do
you're
it.
Totally right. I'm just saying that.
You said you want to get better.
Okay. Anyways, but yes, Harley. Go.
Mad. I agree that people like the idea that they want to get better, and then I also agree that if they could take a magic pill, they would. Yes. I also believe that people believe they're working hard because they come to class X number of days a week, and class is hard. They live right there at that threshold model. Majority of their time is spent at zone 4, but every day is spent at zone 4. They hardly ever go easy. They hardly ever go fast. But every day still leaves them tired. So they're like, I'm running my head in the wall every day. Why am I not getting better? Why am I not breaking through this wall? Yeah. And it's because they're just doing hard work for the sake of feeling like it's hard work.
But hardly HWPO.
The sensation of hard work, right?
Yeah.
But without the effects, the optimized effects of smart work and balancing. So I think I think you guys are bickering a bit about like the ins and outs of the psyche of what people think they
Right.
want or are willing to do. But the reality is, I think that people think they are doing the hard work because it feels hard every day, but the balance of training is not there to support the development that they want.
Yeah, it just fires me up.
Well, and
Yeah,
Heather has
sure.
more hope for people than I do, I
Well, and
guess.
I saw this post the other day, and I know we've talked about this before, but like somebody was, I can't remember who it was, but they were saying something about you can write all the best program, but like it doesn't mean that the athlete's actually doing the program or as you're intending to write it. And so,
100% true.
right.
Yes.
And so it's like,
It was this post.
which one? Who
It was
I
this
saw-
post.
Who-
This post says
This
that. They
post.
said that like 20% of
Oh,
the
okay, maybe it was-
athletes didn't do what they were prescribed
Right.
to do.
Okay, yeah, and yeah, it was okay. It was in this one, but and I was like, dang, that's so true because you could still have all the science and do all the things, and then to what Harley's saying, like you can come in and be like working hard, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like you're going to get the results if you're not being
so
intentional
that's-
about the work that you're putting
Right.
in.
And so that's one of the main points of like why I wanted to bring this up in training distribution is that like you if you're not getting the result you're getting, the science is there and we're trying to use a lot of that. You're not getting the result because you're not working, right? Just like the 20% of people didn't do what they were told to do. But there is a value of having the proper training distribution or
Mhm.
movement selection or exercises. And those are, oh God.
But that starts
I
there,
saw
right?
Tyler's
Like that's
face.
the
He's reading the comment. Just stop reading that comment.
So, but I think that they're showing up and again, they are doing the work and they're bringing everything they have to the session. But back to my comment earlier of like, you have to respect easy. If it says go at 70% effort, easy cruise control or smooth, sustainable work, that doesn't mean run, through a wall and like bring 100% intensity. That means exercise discipline and slow yourself down and, be sustainable, not,
Mhm.
Truly our approach to CrossFit, which is everything's for time or an AMRAP, right?
Yeah, well,
So-
doing the work as it was intended.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, because there is importance of training distribution. So
Correct.
what's so crazy is that like we talk about this and like hopefully the people listening to this are going to take away like, okay, there is reason why on Tuesday I'm doing this, even if you don't specifically know like every little ins and outs, and you don't necessarily need to know, but you need to look at the notes like Harley's saying and respect that day. And typically that Tuesday for a lot of people doesn't change very much. In the class structure, I do move the days around because not everybody comes every day. If everyone came Monday through Friday, I would never change the days. We keep a very good linear structure. So the training distribution of intensities, durations, were all balanced to what people need for quality health and fitness and pushing their fitness forward. But that doesn't happen. So we move them around. But as individual athletes, like knowing, okay, on Tuesday, I do my strict ring muscle ups work. And I know that stuff that I do, that Marissa has me doing is easy for me. And it's the E40. That's why we talked about E40 earlier, the rapper. So, but for me, like to do one, I'm talking to Cody. I do my L-sit ring muscle up with plus dip. And then I'm like chit chatting with Cody. And then I do my L-sit ring muscle up and chit chat with Cody. And Harley watched me do that session when he was here last. It's an easy session for me. Your easy session might be the pull-ups or some toes to bar, and there's no intensity, no interference, and you're just building skills or building strength or whatever it is. And because I know that happens, I'm okay with doing that on that day. I know that that's the distribution because on Wednesdays, typically I am going to be on the rower, just killing myself for my intensity day. And once I know and understand just the general training structure, I can adhere to these principles that allow me to reap the reward of those 2.5% gains and then multiply by 6 like Luca does and get more benefit and adaptation from my training because I understand that and those pieces. And that was something that, they talk about in the takeaway from all of this of like anything. Go ahead.
Are you saying that you need to match the intended stimulus of the day?
Yeah.
Are you trying to trigger?
Don't say
Yes.
that. We're talking about true stimulus, not just like, all right, guys, today we got clean and jerks and shuttle runs, and and stimulus is the heavy barbell. It's like, what the fuck are we talking about? No, the stimulus is the fact that you're going to run really hard and you're going to move a heavy barbell and you're going to jack up your heart rate and you're going to have a great old time. It's great. It's phenomenal.
Can I share an anecdote of someone
Yeah, go ahead.
mix matching some stuff?
I love it.
Cool. All right. So it falls right in line with what Todd was talking about and understanding the structure of your training and ideally that it's laid out for a reason, right? So this week I noticed based on a client's feedback, they had done Tuesday session on Monday.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, hey, like, is the app sort of incorrect on your end? Like I saw the feedback was out of order and they're like, oh, well, it's like life happened. I take my car to the shop. I just wanted to do this day instead. And they're like, but don't worry, I'm going to do Mondays today. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. Like Monday is intended to be a really high effort day and Tuesday is intended to be a really low effort day. And then Wednesday is supposed to be a high effort day again. So it's like, you're now going to have 2 really high effort days back to back. She's like, it's okay. The work's going to get done. And I'm like,
yeah. So what you're
like, but is it going to get done optimally? And are you going to be run down because of it? Or are you going to miss out on, bringing enough intensity on Wednesday because you just brought intensity on Tuesday? Who knows?
Yeah.
But we'll see how it plays out. But like, we do know, but like at the same time.
And like, we know as coaches, like if we're talking about trying to get let's just say 1%, we're trying to get 1% better. You're doing that. You're not going to get that 1% better. What Harley's talking about is like rest recovery, right? So high intensity, then you're going to give her an easier day and then high intensity. So it's allowing adequate rest and recovery from those days, pulling them apart so that you can have maximum effort and attention and intensity to those days where you need them.
Especially because this is someone who said that this year's open matters because she wants to see how much progress she's seen from last year. So I'm like, all right, sweet. Now the intensity and the conditioning, intensity within the conditioning, the CrossFit specific pieces matters, right?
Mm-hmm. And all of that said, like that is optimal in what we're trying to get. Now life does happen and we know that as coaches. I think my pushback on that when I get that and is like, cause I'm like, well, I know life happens. And I feel like sometimes I come to the conversation of like, I'm already understanding that, but I still, as a coach, need to be the guardrails and buffer you and say, and tell you, because in that moment, like this is a great example. Because in that moment, I'm sure this person is, if you tell them like, hey, you kind of messed that up because now you're gonna have 2 intense days, they're not even listening to that probably because they're probably like, well, put my car and like this and that. And like, they're going through all these things. And it's hard because I think sometimes as coaches, it's not really our job to sit there and be like, no, I totally understand. You flip flop those days. It's cool. Like whatever. And some coaches do that. And I would say like, I'm not heartless, but at the end of the day, like if I was the client and they weren't saying, hey, these 2 days need to be separated. This matters. I understand the car stuff. Can we pull, let's just, for example, say Wednesday to Friday, and we'll give you 2 rest days in between or whatever it is, or low intensity days, and pull them away from each other because you already went hard. And let's try to make that work and restructure and have that conversation because you had something come up. I think that's the job of the coach, not to sit, because I think there are a lot of coaches out there that would just be like, I'm really sorry that happened. And it's okay. Do that day. And then 2 weeks from now, they do the same thing. And this is pretty common with athletes. It's not
what I ended up telling her was in the future, if life does happen like that and you don't have the same amount of time on that Monday, I would rather you skip the accessories or even limit the strength work just to prioritize the intensity and the conditioning and get in and get out of the gym with, the time you have, but still keeping the effort and intensity the same on that day.
Well, I guess and that's a great solution. I guess my point is like speaking to the athletes right now who listen to this is that I think often you feel like I don't want to tell my coach or I don't want to get yelled at or I don't want to tell them, oh, I did the wrong thing, or because it does matter to you, but it also matters to us. And giving that type of feedback or giving solution is not a negative thing. And I love the example that you have because like you can't control the car stuff. There are things outside of your control in your life. And I like that you brought that example up because it happens to everyone. But it's sitting back and going, oh, this coach actually really cares about my progression and my training, that they're trying to be the bumpers and give me that feedback, even though in this moment I may not want to hear it because, you know, I got this life stuff going on and I'm stressed out about my car and like, I don't want to hear this person tell me how I should be changing these things because I'm already stressed. But as an athlete, I like personally, if Marissa told me something, it's like, you need to be doing this because this is your goal and like, don't change these things. Or like, she just takes training and moves it over. Like we got sick over the weekend and like my ring muscle stuff was today and I did that today. And that I think is a great approach. Some people would look at that and go, well, they just moved my training over. Like, that's not really good coaching. It's like, no, that's probably the best coaching because the training distribution, like we just talked about and argued about, is it needs to be, I don't want to say perfect, but you need to strive for perfection in the training distribution as a coach, which we try to do. And then you need to adhere to that training distribution so you can maximize the outcomes, even if it's 1%. So you can be like Luca and get
another layer to moving over the sessions is that if it is a priority from a skill development standpoint or a strength exposure standpoint, like you don't want, whatever it is, like you don't want to miss out on the exposure to your priority work for the given week because you had to miss 2 days because you were sick. Like if you're feeling up to it by, you know, Friday, awesome. Then let's move your Tuesday ring muscle ups to Friday or your whatever, you know, whatever the piece is.
Yeah. And same thing, like all of that stuff matters. The structure and training distribution can incorporate also like stress, sickness, you know, you're a shift worker and you do one-on-one training, like all of that gets in accounted for in your distribution of training as well, right? Because those are stressors.
Those are the that need training, individualized training the most. Like shift work, like shift work, night work, people who are on, you know, 2 on, 4 off, whatever. Like, how do you optimize that spread of training? And it's like, those are who need the most coaching.
Well, and to that point, like one of the things that I really wanted to bring up was like the people that need one-on-one. I mean, everyone needs one-on-one coaching, arguably, right? But, you know, I've had a couple clients who've originally started with me because they wanted to be competitive. Those were their original goals and something happens, right? They get injured or their schedule changes or whatever. And they've messaged me and they're like, well, I'm not going to do one-on-one training anymore because I can't, I'm hurt and I can't do those goals. And I'm like, well, wait, like, let's back up. It's like, arguably, like, just because your goals change, like this is like the time when you actually probably need one-on-one training the most, because you need somebody that's going to be able to like regulate your training, regulate what you're doing in a safe way, instead of just like, okay, I'm just going to go do class and then I'm going to regulate it myself. And then and I'm like, no. Right. And so I think that people think that they only do one-on-one training because they want to be competitive and they have these high level goals. But, you know, everybody can benefit from that, especially if you're hurt, especially if you're a shift worker and you have a really crazy schedule and a sleep schedule and whatnot. It's like, you need somebody who like knows what they're doing to.
Yeah, I would say the more stress you have in your life, the more demands you have on your life, actually you are a candidate for one-on-one coaching more than anyone else, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, yes, performance, all that stuff that will happen. It like, I was also having a conversation today with somebody and like the Open's coming up, everyone's thinking about it. And in class, when I coach, we have a unique situation, obviously, as you guys know, who listen to this, like Heather and I coach at the affiliate. I would argue we're some of the best coaches in the world. And so when you're getting coached by us, you're getting way higher level things than majority of CrossFit gyms. And I will die on that hill and we can go travel around to CrossFit gyms and we can evaluate coaches. And I guarantee you when we come back, you're going to be like, you know what? Yeah, you were right. You guys are the best. And that's great. Harley at DTC, same thing. Like you're getting some of the best coaching that you could get for your $169 to $200 a month. And you don't even realize it. With that situation, we have the ability to help you. And there's some phenomenal coaches out there as well. I don't want to discredit everyone, but I've been to some gyms where I'm like, wow, this is wild that this is even going on right now. But coaches can help you when you have those stressful situations and do their best for an hour-long class goer to like manipulate and scale things and, you know, be conscientious of the things that are happening in your life. But arguably, they're not keeping record. You're not on a CoachRx where there's daily check-in and intake and results and conversations back and forth. And even if it's not daily, it's like we're looking at it every week. We're watching videos, you're putting in things, you're texting your coach. and we're remodeling things. Like at this point, I program design for people like almost 3 days at a time because I have the skeleton, their layout, and life happens. So they get their 3 days. And then almost, if we went down and audited a year for any one of my athletes, you would see the changes get made constantly because of things that are happening in their life. And that's one of the greater values of one-on-one is I can manipulate those things. Whereas if you take class, the program hopefully is already written either a month out or the week out, and there's a plan and a structure, and you're going to do exactly what is there. No manipulation, except for your choice to come to class or not come to class. And then when you get to class, you got to do what everyone's doing, which may be tough. And you can temper those intensities. We talk to people in class all the time about changing stuff. Hey, you do a 70% effort day, try to use the red, yellow, green model of like how you feel. Like red's like, I feel like shit today. I'm just here. I'm being consistent. Yellow's like, I could kind of give it whatever, and green's like, all systems go, baby. Let's crush it. PR city. And we try to help people have that mindset. But beyond that, you're not really getting a whole lot of help. There's a ton of stuff happening in your life. You're stressed out. You didn't sleep well. Your shoulders hurt, and you come in, you got to do push press in class. Well, now we're like recipe for shoulder injury. And if you have a one-on-one coach, it's, text in the morning or results of like, hey, I didn't do the push press. I had poor night of sleep. My shoulder's pretty jacked up. We look at that. And then on Thursday or whatever day, 2 days later, a day later, the programming now changes to help you optimize your training distribution, your training structure, your injuries, your stress, your recovery. And those things are really valuable and important beyond competitive athletes.
Yeah.
But back to like the conversation I was having in class, I was like, we're doing wall balls today. And we've been working on wall balls because wall balls are at high volumes and they're in the open and they frustrate people because they're hard. And we've been doing like 100 wall balls a week as volume. And I structure it in different training systems. I was thinking about the burpee box jump overs that we did last week where I made people do 4 sets of 30 burpee box jump overs, 1-to-1 rest. But we've done some stuff like that for the wall balls as well. And I was like, hey, go unbroken on the wall balls. We've been working on the wall balls. Unless you're really trying to work on your toe to bar, then protect the toe to bar. And again, go unbroken on the toe to bar. And I had one of the athletes be like, well, I'm not trying to be competitive. So like, what does it matter? And I was like, whoa, okay. Doing 24 unbroken wall balls. Yes. Is the byproduct of that making you more competitive? Yes, it does. But think about the cardiovascular, respiratory, muscular endurance demand that you're building by doing, and mental fortitude, because you obviously don't want to do 24 wall balls unbroken. So you're getting a lot of these physiological fitness benefits that push you forward in your health and your fitness and your abilities by doing 24 unbroken every round. But like they thought to do that, it's to be a competitor. And I understand the context, like the Open's coming, we're talking about it, everyone's talking about it. And there's people in the gym doing these qualifiers for Adirondack. And like, there's a lot, and we got the one-on-ones who are very competitive. So there's a lot of like competitive atmosphere, but the things that people are doing at the top do equate to higher levels of fitness. Now, do you have to do everything that they're doing? No. But can we steal little bits and pieces, like doing 24 wall balls unbroken, which yes, does make you faster than somebody else in a workout who breaks them up, which I would argue then you get more fit. So there's a lot of things that you can get from that, like quote unquote competitive thing that people coin competitive. It was just a really interesting conversation. They ultimately did the 24 wall balls unbroken. So that was good.
I think what you're even getting at is like, that's the coaching, right? People are going to go into affiliates potentially. And you're right. Like they don't have to argue with them. They can just sit
wall
there.
Balls are greater than burpee box jump overs.
Yeah. Same. But they don't have to argue with them. Yeah. Okay, sure. Fine. Do 12, whatever.
Well,
right.
yeah.
But it's like getting the athlete to understand that. And I don't actually think I shared this with you, Todd, but on Monday we were doing it was like the rowing box step up, and then it was the burpee box jump over.
Yeah, baby.
And we had
more burpee box jump over.
Yeah, we had a girl on Monday who has recently come to our gym, but she was from another affiliate and she's only been with us for maybe a month or two. And I know she's pretty athletic, and she was like doing step ups, like burpee, step over, whatever. And I had said to her, I'm like, well, why aren't you jumping on that box? Like, you're perfectly capable of doing that. And she's like, well, I don't need that for fitness. And I was like,
Mm.
And it was literally the conversation we were just having a week ago about like, well, are you going to trip and fall, or do you need to chase your kids, or do you need to like run up a hill, or do you need to pull your kid on a sled? And it was like that whole conversation. And then I think I pulled over the risers and had her do 18 inches and not the 20. And she was fine. And she did it and I'm like, but it's like having to like convince them that it's like, no, it is important for you to do this. And you just, I mean, sure, you can step over and still get fitness, but this is why it's important to like do those things.
But you're not developing rate of force projection.
Right.
Rate of force development.
They don't care about that science.
Nope. False.
Yeah.
But so that's, I mean, another thing, like training distribution. I liked the Instagram post by Watt Science because it was more like bioenergetics training. Whereas like even movement selection is training distribution. You know, bodybuilders have done that for years. It's effective, like upper, lower splits, back and bis, chest and tries, legs, right? There's a reason why that lasted the test of time. It's because it worked, because it gave enough recovery, 72 hours between each isolated muscle group and the volume that they're doing to induce muscle hypertrophy. Through research now, they have proven that this bro science, quote unquote, is proven to be true. And their exercise selections that they're using are superior to build. Well, can't say superior because there are some CrossFitters that look fucking good, but there are bodybuilders who I would say look better than most to all CrossFitters. CrossFitters look great, but because they're not doing targeted isolation exercises all the time, they may be lagging in areas that would make their symmetry different, their waist size different, their abdominal definition, bicep size, those types of things that bodybuilders are looking for that to the untrained eye, you notice the difference between a bodybuilder who is, let's not even say like competition ready, but like 2 months out from a competition, look phenomenal relative to most CrossFitters. And a lot of that is diet as well, but taking those small factors of how they train, those training principles they've seen bleed over into CrossFit. We just do more dynamic movements. And it's like choosing the right movements to build the right things is your training distribution, and allowing rest and recovery of those movements. Just like not squatting every day. I know there are athletes, and I coached a high level athlete. Well, I don't know if I call it coach. I mean, I did. He would say I coached him, but just looked at his training and was like, dude, you're squatting every day. No wonder your knees hurt, and was giving him a lot of feedback on how to restructure his training, how to build training. And we got his knees to feel way better. But like, that's the important thing of like, even what Harley was talking about is like taking the appropriate rest between the bouts and the sessions that allow optimal recovery and response to those adaptations. And as a coach, you're trying to tool and retool those things all the time. And that's why I get upset, like we were talking earlier about like, oh, but I'm doing the thing, I'm working hard. It's like, but you're not though, because you're just disrupting the proper training distribution, the movement selections, the reps and the sets. And yes, life gets in the way, but if you want to have more respect for it and get those like 1%, you're going to ask, or you're just going to take the feedback and be like, yeah, you know what? Shit, that sucked. My car had some issues. Yeah, let's just move the training over. So that way I can get those adaptations and like be on track with that. I'm totally good with it. That's a completely different like response and approach to things, you know? It's crazy though. We could have talked about the hex bar jumping and Olympic lifting, but we could save that for another time.
Dude, you don't need power cleans.
Oh, you do.
No.
You do.
Waste of time.
If you're a bad coach, they're a waste of time.
It's a high risk movement. People don't need to do that.
Yeah. Before we got on, I was telling them about a research study where they evaluated Olympic lifting, so power cleans, and hex bar jumps, and how they're like basically you're going to get more out of Olympic lifting than you will hex bar jumps. The caveat is that they are slightly two different force producing movements. So the force curves are slightly different, and so they can create different adaptations for what you're trying to do. So like if you're trying to get somebody to get off the blocks faster, you might do hex bar jumping. But if you're trying to get someone to sustain a longer time of force, you would, like a martial artist throwing a kick would be a good example. You're going to do power cleans. It's because it's a longer time of a movement. Don't shake your head like that. Then, but the biggest caveat is like, not all coaches, like they said this in the say, not all coaches have the skills and the ability to coach Olympic weightlifting effectively and efficiently enough to spend the time doing it. Because as if you know anything about hex bar jumping and hex bar lunging and stuff, it's pretty dummy proof. Like you know, so you're going to get great adaptation from low demand of knowledge, skill, and expertise. So the moral story is like, if you know how to power clean, you should just power clean and do lots of power cleans. If you don't know how to power clean, maybe hex bar jumping is good for you. Or you're a sprinter trying to get out of the blocks quick. Could be good. That was the shorthand. There's way more to it than that.
Or you can find a coach that can teach you how to do those things.
Yeah.
Nah.
I mean, power cleans just
Don't do that either.
make you feel just like a beast, you know? Like when you put on a good E40 jam and just hit some power cleans, dude.
Bring it
Like,
back
yeah,
around.
bring it back around. We do like to have fun around here. Because Jesus Christ had dreads. Okay.
So shake them.
So shake them. I ain't got dreads, but I plan on growing some. Who's that guy that like does that and basically like reads the rap lyrics as poems? God, he's like a comedian. It's hilarious. Just because the words. And he's done like a Nicki Minaj. I'm gonna find out who that is. If you know who that is, put in the chat. If you guys are listening, there's a comedian that just reads rap lyrics like it's a poem and reads it all slow and like it's funny. Wish I knew who that was. So funny. I love it. Anyways, you guys got anything to add?
No.
No.
All right. Well,
I think I'm done now.
okay. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Pretty cool notification bell. If you haven't linked, you'll get a little notification on your watch. Tristan got one yesterday when we went live, talking about basically the structure. It was kind of a cool format. If you guys want to go watch that one, Noah and myself and Tristan, they did TFX. We kind of talked about things not like TFX. We use TFX as how did it feel? How did it go? Some money stuff of these competitions, just a little bit different format of things outside of like training and more of the kind of, I don't know. I don't want to say business end because we didn't go that deep, but
But
just
it's more of like the ecosystem of
Yeah.
competitions.
And if you guys like that format, we'll do more of those. Talk about it. Just comment on that video. And also shout out to Jace. Jace, oh man, what was the other comment he had? Jace is commenting on our videos. I love it. It was cool. So if you guys comment on the videos, I read those. I get a good chuckle. Yeah, he said, can I nominate Harley for the most likely to crash a stationary bike? Hashtag Wolfies.
Yeah.
like
That's nice.
Hashtag Wolfies. That's good.
And then, yeah, the Masters interviews, I'm going to do more of those. I feel like we had a good feedback. Comment on this video or
Can-
send us a DM.
Can we get a shout out to all of us Pat coaches being at the same comp? All 5 of us. Oh, except
Noah's
Noah.
not
Noah won't be
gonna
there.
be
Damn it. Okay, almost.
Nice
all
try.
of us.
Nice try.
Sorry. I feel like that's like a first though. All of us.
What about
us going out there?
that's a good one. Yeah. What about Jace just being in a qualifying spot for NCC? How about that one? That's a cool one.
Congratulations, Jace.
Yeah.
He is qualified for a qualifying event for the CrossFit Games.
Yeah.
How many
Yeah.
did they get? 2 spots, 1 spot.
2 spots, I think.
He was what, 12?
12.
He's 12th. Yeah.
Yeah, after video review, he might move up.
Move
But
up,
anyone
move down.
who knows anything in the CrossFit space, he was right behind Samuel Quant, which is really cool to see, and just above the HWPO kid. Actually, he gets trained by Hebner. Dang it, drawing a blank.
I don't
Chrissy
know.
Barra. Chrissy Barra.
No, he's ahead of Chris Ibarra. I thought Chris was like 4th.
Oh, really?
Chris? Yeah, I don't know. Chris was at the games
Oh,
this
no,
year.
no, Raphael Sands.
He's
Sorry.
not. I
But
saw
he
Ed
also
was
does-
coaching him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Raph Hansen.
But he also does HWPO. That's why.
No.
No, he doesn't?
I saw.
Raph
I
changed.
was talking to Matt
Oh, he
or
changed.
Marissa about that. He's
Sorry.
with
No.
Elk.
Okay, guys. Sorry, he was with
I-
HWPO.
I'm just saying. I literally just saw that 2 days ago and was talking to Marissa.
You
about
mean
it.
Yeah.
he's on Sentinel training?
He's with Coach L.
Yeah, Sentinel training, right?
Oh.
What? I'm sorry. What? I don't know that joke.
We'll tell you on the offline. We'll
He'll tell you offline. If you got
But
that-
anyways, he's in good company and he's competing with the best in the sport. And he in a qualifier form, he is right there with the best of them. So Jace is crushing it.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
when we started a year and a half ago, he said he wanted to make a semifinal, and this is the qualifying spot to the games. It's as close as we get this season, outside of before the season, of course.
I mean,
So
he could still make it to TFX on the.
he could 100%. He could. And I think that he's in a great spot for going into the year. He has an opportunity for an in-person competition already. So I think we're on track for his goal that we made a year and a half ago. So that's pretty dang cool to see.
Nice.
Yeah. Good job, coach.
Good job,
He-
Jace.
He did it
I mean, you guys did it together.
Yeah.
for sure.
Because you know what? I do want, now that you said that, I've been listening to how people talk recently, but like the truth of it is that like the way it played out is you guys created a relationship. You worked together in tandem. He did the hard work. You know what that work is like. We're all of us trained. So you can't say that we aren't taking our own medicine. Let's say that for the saying. And you're using your knowledge and all the effort that you put into learning this craft to give him the best program and retool it. And like, it's a partnership,
For sure.
and he did a lot. He did all the work, all the hard days by himself, everything. But let's say he was at DTC, you'd be right there alongside him. It would not be, it'd be enhanced. You'd be there, you'd be giving your time. It's not like you wouldn't, it's just that you're remote. But I do think there's a lot of value in we did it more than, because it's greater than yourself. And I think that just emotionally, mentally, everything, there's a lot of power in having a tribe and people behind you. And it's okay to share that. And the truth of it is you can't go back in time. So you and him did it together. And that's how it happened. So you guys did it as a team, and that's really cool. So I know you don't want to take the credit and you want to be humble, but there's a lot of credit to be given around for that. And I think more of us need to do that. Athletes and coaches and organizations, everything else. It's a team effort. I mean, even the people posting in our Slack doing the send its, they all had a part in helping Jace. Cody going back and forth, with him, has a part in helping Jace. Shanna recommending Jace to the pack at the games and having him talk to me, and then you talking to him. Like, all of that had a part in what happened and the success of it. And I think everyone should celebrate that equally. He's working really hard, and I don't want to take it that way. I want to amplify all of that by saying that. I think that's a value. So thanks for letting me talk on my soapbox about that. It's
Agreed.
important.
It's good.
Wait, hold on. Before this, Harley's out of the loop. Yeah. We'll tell you after the show.
That's fine.
Thanks, guys. Like and subscribe. Shout out to Jace. We'll be at Fittest of the Coast. If you guys see us, come say hi. I will talk to you. I know I look scary in person. I've gotten that feedback. I'm not. I'm nice. I'm a little softy. I'm like a caramel bar, hard on the outside, nice caramel center. Or just talk to my wife. Everybody loves her and hates me, so it's fine.